Over the last 25 years, I've had the privilege of interviewing and highlighting some truly interesting people. Everyone who is anyone, both the famous and the infamous, from presidents and their first ladies to kings and queens, movie stars and pop stars, captains of industry, heads of state, sports personalities, innovative entrepreneurs, and some pretty fascinating everyday people. Today, I'm proud to introduce you to Lee Temple, a learned professional Renaissance man who has made choices and participated in activities that serve to enhance his life journey. Lee, it's a pleasure to meet you.
It's great to meet you too, Star. It's just really wonderful. Thank you so much for having me on your show.
You're very, very welcome. And sir, I was reading so much about you as an architect, a writer, and a songwriter. You're like something of a triple threat here. So, how did you come to have such a diverse career?
I found and I followed my own star. And, uh, that's something that we all don't always get to do, but it's something that's really, really important, especially for our spirit and our mental health. And the long answer, though, is that all of us, each and every one of us, has a really special gift, and that gift is existence. And it's amazing when you stop to think about what it took just to bring each and every one of us into existence. We have a universe that has existed for almost 14 billion years. Everything, everything that has happened in that time has made it possible for you and me to exist. So there's just a ton of miracles from the very beginning to the very end that make it possible for us to be here. That's the background. Then the foreground is, for me, I had really, really wonderful parents. They really took care of me. They cared about me, but also they really wanted me to succeed. And what happened was they really pushed me in my schoolwork. And if I came home with a B or a C, oh boy, I was in trouble. So that made me really, really push to be a good student.
Mhm.
And then in turn, being a good student made it possible for me. Many doors opened for me from really, really good teachers to, just all different kinds of possibilities and opportunities opened for me. And what I found with that background and foreground was that my mind expanded, and it expanded in a way that embraced all different kinds of things. So following my star, I realized that any one given category like architecture or songwriting wouldn't really cover all the kinds of things that I wanted to do in that larger panorama, that larger perspective that I was building for myself. Now, the other side too is that in addition to my mother helping me to, really push me to do my schoolwork and get ahead, um, there were some challenges that she faced when I was growing up. And I kind of, it's one of those things where the wounds that you get when you're younger, sometimes they push you to be stronger and more powerful, as you grow older. And so I found that I sort of developed a mindset of I need to help my mother.
Ah, okay.
I need to help her, and so it just kind of became a posture, a stance of mine. And then when I got older, I found that even though she was 25 years in the grave, I was still helping my mother. But my mother, in this case, mothers plural, was Mother Nature and Mother Earth. So I'm still helping my mother.
How do you see yourself first and foremost? As an architect, as a writer, or as a combination of the two?
Definitely as a combination, as I was saying, it's a certain kind of training you get to learn to be an architect, and it's very rigorous. it's a kind of template, that you use. It helps you to be very disciplined about things, about organizing things, making things happen. But it's also, that discipline can also be in some instances a kind of a straitjacket, and it limits certain things that you can do. Whereas writing, well, the sky's the limit for writing. I mean, you can pretty much write anything you would like. But I found that having both of those talents and disciplines was really, really valuable for me, because I needed to be able to do things and say things that wouldn't really fit into either or.
So Lee, help me to actually visualize what you're saying. So tell me about some of the creative projects you've contributed to.
Okay, great, thanks. Yeah. Um, well, I have three that I'd like to mention. The first one is called Eco Village at Ithaca, or Eco Village Ithaca. And I can remember back in the early 90s, there were 10 of us that were sitting around a coffee table saying we would really like to make a village that was ecologically and sustainably oriented.
Okay.
And fast forward 2 decades, and Eco Village, or 3 decades now, and Eco Village is an internationally, globally recognized model of sustainable development. There are 3 neighborhoods, hundreds of people living there, a functional on-site power generation system, cottage industries, community-supported agriculture. It's all happening and it's all there. So that's one example. The second example is my own homestead that I built here in the early 90s and all throughout time after that. And what that is I started out to see if we could make a working model of the American home that would help people reduce their carbon footprint and live a more sustainable and enriching life by these kinds of elements and principles that I built here. Mm-hmm. And so now what I did recently, I had a keynote speech that I was giving for an energy fair, and I had to compare, because it was the 30th anniversary of the fair. I compared what my footprint was in 1989 and 2019. And I realized that back before I had built this homestead, it was over 50 tons per year for the whole household. And for last year, it was under 8 tons. So we've been able to manage to reduce carbon footprint here by, over 80%. It's just a tremendous feeling. The way you're seeing me now is only because of the sun. Now, the third one that I want to tell you about is the Crestone Charter School. Okay. And I served on the design committee for that. It was built back in 2011, 2012. And it's a really great model now for alternative and renewable energy in the educational environment. Mm-hmm. So those are some examples that we could look at.
That they just seem, everything seems so interesting and so varied. What's the most rewarding aspect of your work, Lee?
Well, I think you might have guessed it by my answers already. I like turning dreams into reality.
Very nice.
And I like to help others to do the same. So another example I could give you is this book. I'm going to try and show it, see if you can see it here. It's called Awakening into Unity, and it is the summary of a larger series that's called the Global Awakening series. And it summarizes that series, and it's sort of like what I could call my life's work. It's a green polemic for world healing. It unites various perspectives from science, philosophy, spirituality, the environment, to create lasting solutions to climate change for Earth and her children. Community is a really multi-varied kind of expression. It's something that you can use for your family or your local community, but it can also be bigger. What I did, I started out in the early 90s just by serving on local committees, social justice, Tibetan resettlement, various things like that, serving and chairing them. And then eventually I got into larger things like coordinating regional conferences and being involved with philanthropy. Sometimes philanthropy goes many ways because you can serve as advisors while you also help various organizations sort of get off the ground or get moving further. I'm sure you're familiar with that.
Yes.
But then in 2013, about the time when I was launching the first volumes of that Global Awakening series that I mentioned to you, I launched a website which is called primamundi.com, primamundi.com.
Okay.
And, it's oriented around gathering people together and building a global community. It's a web hub that helps people to connect, learn, share, partner, and interact with all things around the climate crisis.
And Lee, how would you say that your work has actually made a difference in the world since you are still responding to your mother as in Mother Earth?
Good point. Yeah. Well, Prima Mundi has it's a growing network of visitors, followers, allies, and partners, thousands, of various people and organizations from 80 countries all around the world. And, folks tell us all the time that we've really helped them to move forward.
Okay.
And so it's sort of, I think, probably the largest difference that I've been able to make so far. And I think, if folks that are watching this are interested, there's a sign up page on the website where you can get this little pamphlet called 10 Steps to a Healthier, Safer Planet.
Okay.
And what that is I built it on the experiences that I developed in my journey into sustainable living here at the homestead. But they're turned into steps that anybody, from an individual to a family, to a school, a community, and even a nation, can use to turn a mirror on themselves to see what their carbon footprint is, what effect they're having on the world, how they can reduce it, and how they can help to regenerate life.
And that actually brings me to my final question, because I always like you to provide the summary for me. What would you like the viewers of this video feature to actually remember the most?
Let's choose to take the path of love over the path of hate. Let's get inspired and stay inspired. Like for me, as a matter of fact, I'm still inspired by people like Van Jones, Greta Thunberg, and elders, especially like Sir David Attenborough with his recent climate change witness statement, or Jane Goodall, or Paul Brunton with his respect for nature as our great teacher. I mean, these people have given their lives to taking care of our great mother and helping. Now, there's an urgency of our global climate crisis, and that's what I hope that people will really take with them.
I just love your whole mindset. I do. It just reminds me of this quote, and I think you'll appreciate it. That is from Buddha. Our life is shaped by our mind, for we become what we think. And the work that you've done just reminds me of mindfulness. You seem to appreciate life and the role you play in making sure others have lives that are worth living. And Lee, just let me say to you, I think that the only way to live is by accepting each minute as an unrepeatable miracle. And so every single minute is one that you should live life to the fullest. And I'd like to thank you for showing us how you can use a varied career to really impact on society.
Well, it's been great to be with you, Star. Thank you so much for having me, and keep up your super incredible, great work.
Thank you, sir.